Dr. Doug Needham's home in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And Dr. Needham was a former professor at OSU in the horticulture department, and also is retired from Longwood Gardens. And Longwood recently went through a prairie renovation. So were you inspired a little bit to come back to Stillwater and bring the prairie with you?
Well, absolutely, yes. At Longwood, we completely renovated a meadow, and it was about 42 acres, expanded to 84-acre meadow garden. Wow. And it was great inspiration.
Yeah.
And with Jackie and I retiring and coming back to Stillwater, and with this piece of property, I certainly didn't want to have all of this to be lawn.
Right.
I wanted to have a native prairie.
Well, you're in the prairie,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. Be in your place.
Exactly.
And so I wanted to really restore this portion of our land that had been native prairie. I could see that in the maps and also in the section that we didn't do anything.
Yeah,
there are all these beautiful native prairie plants.
You have some nearby land here that you haven't done anything, and you've got some very similar plants to them.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the little process that you went through to establish this prairie.
All we did was smooth this out, and it didn't work it up, didn't till it, because I didn't want to bring up weeds and so forth, but just leveled the land, which just kind of crumbled the surface a little bit. And then I wanted a pathway so they could walk through.
Right, absolutely.
And so we used flags and marked where the pathways would be, and that also then set aside the areas that would become the 3 different zones. So a short prairie up at the front near the home's turf grass, a medium prairie here behind us, and the tall prairie behind you.
Okay.
And so each section has a different assortment of native wildflowers.
Right, and you can actually see the heights change with those wildflowers
yes,
too.
Yes, that's right, that's right.
So let's first start with the short grass prairie up there. What is some of the stuff that we're gonna see up there?
So in the short prairie, well, in the spring we had Texas bluebonnet and Indian paintbrush, and gaillardias then came a little bit later, followed with the coreopsis, and then it was a burst with the Mexican hats. And so it just is kind of an ongoing color change. A great fun surprise up there is that there's some prairie pinks that were just native.
Okay.
Yeah. I love them. They're gorgeous.
And they're across the street too.
Exactly. They're in the areas that we didn't touch, and that's what's so fun is to see them.
Now some of those plants transition through the different prairies also. So you'll see some replication in the medium height prairie as well.
And that was not purposeful.
Okay.
We didn't sow the same thing in each section. Each section is a completely different mix, but because this was native prairie to begin with, there are these blending plants as well. So yeah, you'll see the little prairie pinks in the medium as well as the tall. So the medium then, it was a different color palette, so it was to be the pinks and the purples with some complements of yellow. So it has the lemon mint in it that's been flowering so beautifully. It has the Monarda fistula in it, purple coneflower, narrow leaf purple coneflower, black-eyed Susans, some liatris that I collected from the native liatris that were over in the native section. I harvested the seed and sprinkled those in. So it's been a beautiful color palette of
And you also have grasses you've incorporated too. I mean, that's an important part of the prairie.
Very good
point. Not just flowering.
Yeah, grasses are really important because they're important for the pollinators as landing areas, but also some of these plants require nurse grasses.
Indian
paintbrush and Texas bluebonnets benefit from a nurse grass. So each section had 2 different species of grasses. So this medium, for example, has windmill grass and little blue stem.
So, and then behind us, of course, the height increases. This is the tall grass prairie?
The tall prairie, that's right. And so finishing up, and you can see the seed heads forming on these are the standing cypress, and they had beautiful orange, there's a few of them still peeking out, beautiful orange tubular flowers, hummingbirds love
Oh, I
them.
bet, yeah.
And so now they're going to seed, and of course they're even just being covered up by the height of the Maximilian sunflowers
Which
that are
is going to be blooming pretty soon.
yeah, in just a few weeks it'll be a massive yellow color, and so this whole section will just be gorgeous yellow.
Okay, all right. So tell me a little bit about what year are you on?
So this is just the second year. So we sowed everything in November of 17. Put a hydro mulch down over it so that we didn't have to worry about erosion during the winter or washing them away.
Seeds.
Well, look what a huge difference it is just in year 2 alone.
Yeah.
We have had so much color this year. So what we're planning to do is mid-September or even late September, once I feel confident that everything's gone to seed, is then we'll mow it all down and overseed it. Just give it a little boost of some of the things that we want to see more of.
Okay.
And then just keep enjoying it.
And very nice. It's beautiful, it really is. And you can see there's a lot of diversity in the garden. And that is paying off with the dragonflies and the butterflies that I'm seeing out here. So I assume no chemicals, right?
No.
Like you're hand weeding if you need to. Let's talk a little bit about the path too.
Sure.
Because I know a lot of times we have to fight Bermuda grass here in Oklahoma. So what have you used? I know it's a mix a little bit.
It is, and it has some crabgrass. It doesn't belong there. But again, as you say, I didn't use any herbicide to kill out the crabgrass. The pathways were seeded with a mix of buffalo and blue grama.
Okay.
So, and this section has done really well. They do much better in the sun. So the pathway that's in the shade, it's pretty thin.
Right.
But they do really well in the sun. Of course, are well adapted to Oklahoma. They wouldn't have to be mowed at all. They top out at only about that tall.
Okay.
And so you wouldn't even have to mow it. But I like to mow it.
Right.
It really defines the pathway, and that was part of the
We were talking
aesthetic.
about that a little bit earlier. A lot of times, if you don't have a lot of flowering prairie plants just yet, it kind of looks like
you're being lazy.
It looks maybe a little overgrown, but by putting a path through it, it looks more intentional sometimes.
It's very purposeful.
Yeah.
And it defines, this is the pathway. You're supposed to walk and enjoy and get a close look. And the pollinators, you mentioned seeing the dragonflies and the butterflies. That's why this is here.
Right.
Yes, I like it, but it was primarily to help the pollinator situation and provide a landing spot for the declining monarch population, build that population back up.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about stepping on new plants coming up with the path, and also ticks and that sort of stuff.
That's right. Yeah, no,
to walk through.
I walk through here every day down to get the mail, and no ticks, no issues with that in it.
Very nice. Well, it looks beautiful, and thank you for sharing your story with us.
Oh, my pleasure. It was fun.
Hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.